Okay. Let's go ahead and read verbatim about this whole feminist frequency issue. On Vidcon, harassment and garbage humans. To kick off the Women Online panel at Vidcon last Thursday, the moderator posed a question: why do we still have to talk about harassment of women? I replied, because I think it's one of the biggest harassers. One of my biggest harassers is sitting in the front row. He showed up several others together. His group took up two front rows at the panel. Their presence was plainly not, as one of them later said in an apology video that he posted on Twitter, to give us a chance, and we never gave them, and hear us out. Instead, intimidated me and put me on edge. They will no doubt plead innocent and act shocked at what they characterized as outrageous and such allegations. This too is part of the strategy, gaslighting and acting the way they intended to encourage me and other targets and doubt themselves and others, and to wonder all that this isn't just in our heads, but anyone who examines their patterns of behavior, clear eyes, intentions of their actions are undoubtedly apparent. Now, let's see. Carl is a man who literally profits from harassment and other women. He makes over $500,000 a month on Patreon creating YouTube videos, which is true. But he doesn't really mock, he basically disagrees with people and makes like counter arguments against them. Now, I understand that you can say that he discredits you. That's pretty much what he's going to do anyways. Other women online. Insult and discredit myself and other women online. No, he basically made videos before that insult and discredit like males as well that he disagreed with personally. Now, he was in one of several other YouTubers profit from the cottage industry of online harassment and anti-Semitism. Together, these people have millions of followers who will regularly encourage by the videos and tweets these individuals and to harass me and other women to make videos daring to assist the basic humanity of women and people of color and trans folk and members of marginalized groups. Okay. You made a video about video games. Now, you talked about those issues, and people had a disagreement with those issues that you had with the video game, about video games, about how women were being portrayed in video games. Yes, those issues were fine, but when it came down to talking about that women that are being victimized, raped, that are fictional characters, affects real women in reality, that's when people kind of disagreed with you about that, because really, I kind of didn't agree with you when you pointed that out, that it hurts real women. It doesn't. It doesn't affect real women, because real women live in reality. When fictional characters live in fantasy, there's a difference between reality and fantasy, and people kind of disagreed with you on that point when you cross that line between fantasy and reality. And that's the thing that people had a disagreement with you about. When you brought up the whole thing about humanity of women, people of color, I didn't recall you bringing that up in your video games. You didn't bring that up in some of your series of games that you talked about. Now, you basically brought up women, the issues of women in video games. And you basically brought up the issues about women. Sure, you brought up the issue about, exotic women and all this other stuff that you brought up in your video series that you brought up. But a lot of people were kind of like, huh? What? But there were people that agreed with you, but there were people that kind of, disagreed with you on these things. Now I'm going to continue on. Because of the constant flood of threats and harassment I received over the past 5 years simply for being a woman who argues the basic humanity of women in deeply misogynistic culture. Now, misogynistic culture. Now, that kind of doesn't make any... I thought this was kind of a a society that we can just be civilized, but I guess you kind of believe that. Okay, I want for a very long time rarely participating. Okay, so very long time rarely participate in public conversations. Being a target of cybermon harassment is traumatizing experience. No, it isn't, because you get bodyguards. You had people protecting your ass 24/7 all the time. Even at E3, no one harassed you, no one bothered you, no one even tried to talk to you. Though harassers seek to deny this, one tactic of theirs to dismiss this very idea to say that everyone online is treated the same. Everyone online gets called names. Sometimes, in fact, there is simply no comparison between being occasionally mocked and insulted online as a male anti-feminist who occupies a position of power in an overwhelmingly sexist and patriarchal culture and being a woman who receives a never-ending torrent of abuse while fighting tooth and nail to create an online culture that is less misogynistic and a little more equitable. Well, let's put it this way. He lost his job before, and of course he was donated a lot of money because even he was sent a kettle as a threat, which was kind of funny. I kind of find it hilarious that he was sent a kettle. A lot of people he did get his fair share of threats as well. Now, that is itself an act of harassment and intimidation. Now, let's go ahead and continue on. However, despite the torrent of harassment, I recently made a conscious decision to participate more regularly at panels of conversation at public events because I wanted to engage with people who showed up in good faith to listen to our ideas. Your ideas, those are not your ideas. Technically, they're basically someone who wrote a book a long time ago about those ideas. But let me make something very clear. When you have a history of harassing someone for years, and you show up in front of their row at a panel with a camera and an entourage, this is not an act of good faith. To put it mildly, this itself is an act of harassment and intimidation. Now, he and his companions were doing this not just to me, but to other women as well. Women like Kate Black, Francesca Ramsey, so that we are aware at Vidcon that the man who harassed us, whose hundreds and thousands of followers have attacked us online for years, is here, watching us. It's a deliberate act of creating an environment that feels hostile, to communicate to us that when we dare to show up in a public to express our ideas, we express it online, the harassment will follow us into the physical world as well. Let's see.
Attended a panel at Vidcon called Women Online Discussion featuring Anita Sarkeesian. The panel was advertised as a discussion about how to create and engage as a woman. This is of particular interest to me as for many years now I have been attempted to engage with Sarkeesian and other feminists about their criticisms of the video game industry. Like thousands of others, I have long been a critic of Sarkeesian's work, finding it of poor quality while Sarkeesian consistently avoided answering criticism by smearing male video gamers with derogatory terms such as toxic masculinity and decrying any and all legitimate criticism as inciting harassment. My hope for the conference was to learn how Miss Sarkeesian and the other panelists would like to be approached in order to discuss my concerns. Within minutes, Anita Sarkeesian hijacked the panel for her own personal agenda after she identified me in the audience. I was sat quietly anticipating an interesting discussion, but instead Sarkeesian decided to use her position of institutional privilege as one of Vidcon's featured creators to launch an unprovoked tirade of abuse after singling me out specifically to bully, culminating in her calling me a shithead and a garbage human. On page 9 of Vidcon's Code of Conduct, there is a paragraph detailing what construes harassment. It reads, "Disorderly conduct that includes but is not limited to any behavior that is illegal, unsafe, disruptive, discriminatory, or causes excessive discomfort to our attendees or guests. Anita Sarkeesian violated Vidcon's code of conduct by abusing me from the stage. Although you can't hear it in the video, after receiving this abuse, I told her that I just wanted to talk. She dismissed this without consideration and then lied about me to the entire audience, claiming that I had either personally harassed her or incited others to do so. As anyone who follows my work will be able to attest, I have had a completely consistent record of advocating against the public contacting Sarkeesian at all, let alone sending threats. I make two arguments, the first moral, that it is wrong to send abuse, and the second pragmatic, that she can paint anyone who criticizes her as an abuser in order to avoid the criticism. My criticisms of her are also consistent in regard to the evident bias of her work and her defamatory attacks on men, by using bigoted terms such as toxic masculinity. Naturally, videos of Anita abusing me went viral on the internet, and incited a ceaseless torrent of cyber abuse and harassment from her friends and followers on Twitter, including many content creators with many thousands of followers themselves, also calling me a garbage human. This lasted for the entire duration of last night, in which I stayed up to catalogue the abuse on my Twitter feed.
Now he and his followers are acting as if me publicly calling him human garbage was equivalent to what he has done to me. In truth, he and his followers cannot begin to imagine what has constantly begged to fight for your basic humanity in a culture of fundamental refuse to acknowledge it. He cannot imagine what it is to spend years and years being targeted of floods of harassment and hate, then to still go out of to keep fighting. The companion of his who made an apology referred earlier in the tweet that women are powerful enough to deal with things in the workplace of harassment to rape as powers in accepting culture which women and second-class citizens in which misogyny and the workplace harassment and rape is a norm. Fuck that. I never settled for that. Okay. That whole thing, I don't know what happened. But it's pretty much the whole situation here about the whole he said, she said thing. I don't know who's telling the truth here. I don't know who's lying. I don't know who's making up things. But personally, I have my disagreements with Sargon sometimes, but I don't try to, bullshit him about it. I know that he can address his concerns more maturely, and I'm sure he stands on his issues, I stand on mine. That's pretty much how it works. As for Anita, she pretty much ignores it, lets it go, moves on to something else and tries to, focus on her projects and such. That's fine. But as far as I know, I'm sorry if I'm eating, kind of hungry. Most of this is kind of ridiculous. This whole situation with Sargon and Anita, and my thoughts on this whole issue about the human garbage thing. This is pretty much the situation on the whole he said, she said thing. Both of them, from Sargon's side of the story, it seemed reasonable. He just wanted to record and talk to Anita, that's fine. But as far as I know, her side of the story about this whole issue, as far as she's concerned, I don't know. Because it's pretty much the whole situation. This is Sargon's side of the story. This is pretty much the he said, she said situation. And this is what my thoughts are on this whole situation. I know that most people can disagree with me, but I would like to hear what your thoughts are on this whole situation. Because I personally, if you disagree with me, go ahead and post it down below. If you're too afraid to speak up because you can't speak your own mind, speak your own mind. I don't really care. I just want to hear what you have to say about this issue. Because really, I would like to hear people's feedback on this issue, because I personally want to know what you think of it, because it's pretty much, and what I think of it is, it's pretty much the he said she said situation, because it's like, who's actually telling the truth here? Is it Anita or is it Sargon? We don't know. I wasn't there, and people over there were just pretty much getting upset over the situation. It's true that Sargon got harassed online. It's true that Anita got harassed online for 5 years on end. But I know that Sargon got hit pretty hard too. Now, I understand that people kind of, have a problem with Anita. I know that people disagree with her. I know that people disagree with Sargon. And I pretty much understand, from my own perspective of this, it's pretty much, like I said before, it's the he said, she said situation, where you don't know who or what, you don't know what happened, I don't know what happened, and this whole situation is ridiculous. And I'm sorry if I'm being skeptical here, because I don't know what happened, I wasn't there, and it's pretty much the whole situation. Sure, I have my disagreements with Anita Sarkeesian. Like I said before in this video, I personally have a disagreement with her, and I'm not gonna go and call her names. I just personally disagree with her on the issue about video games and her issue about characters, and that's pretty much what I have to say. And I understand that people, I would personally like to hear what your thoughts are, because I want to hear what people think. Because personally, even if you downvote this video, I would like to hear your personal thoughts. Write them down. Tell me what you think, because I would like to hear your thoughts. Anyways, I gotta go, guys. Thank you for listening to me, ramble on and reading this whole thing. I gotta go. Bye-bye.